Most people believe that the biggest moments in life are the ones that change everything. The promotion, the relationship, the breakthrough. But here is the truth that almost no one talks about. The decision that reshapes your entire existence is not the dramatic one. It is the quiet one, the one you make before you react, the one most people skip entirely. Look honestly at your life right now. Think about the last time something went wrong. A plan collapsed. Someone disrespected you. An opportunity slipped through your hands. What did you do in that moment? Most people move immediately. They speak before they think. They feel before they understand. They respond to the surface of a situation, while the deeper truth remains invisible to them. This is not a weakness. It is simply what happens when no one teaches you the alternative. We live in a world that rewards speed, fast opinions, fast reactions, fast judgments. And so we become fast people, impulsive people, people who are constantly responding to life instead of directing it. The result is a life that feels like it is always happening to you, rather than one you are consciously building. The human mind was not designed for the modern world. It was designed for survival, and survival, for most of human history, required immediate reaction. You do not pause to reflect when something is trying to harm you. You move. But here is the problem. That same mechanism, the one built for physical danger, now fires in traffic, in arguments, in moments of social pressure, in your career, in your relationships. Your nervous system cannot always tell the difference between a threat to your life and a threat to your ego. So it reacts the same way. And when you react from that place, from that ancient, unexamined part of yourself, you're not making a decision. You are simply running a program. Pause for a moment and sit with that. You have been running programs that were written long before you understood who you were. The Stoics understood this with extraordinary clarity. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the most powerful empire in the world and still found time to write philosophical meditations by candlelight, says something that sounds simple but contains an entire philosophy inside it. He wrote that between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space lies your freedom. He did not say freedom comes from power. He did not say it comes from wealth or status or the approval of others. He said it lives in that space, that small, quiet pause between what happens to you and what you choose to do about it. This is the one decision that changes everything, the decision to use that space. But most people never find that space. And here is why. There is a psychological pattern that Carl Jung described as the shadow, the parts of yourself you have never examined, the fears you have never named, the wounds you have never acknowledged. When something triggers you, it is almost always the shadow responding, not your conscious self. This is why intelligent people say things they regret, why disciplined people suddenly collapse under pressure, why strong people allow others to control their emotional state with a single sentence. It is not a failure of willpower. It is a failure of self-knowledge. And you cannot choose differently from a self you have never truly met. So the shift begins here, not in motivation, not in discipline, strategies, or morning routines. It begins in the decision to become a witness to your own mind, to watch yourself react before you act, to ask in even the smallest moments whether you are choosing or simply obeying an old pattern. Epictetus, who was born into slavery and later became one of the most respected philosophers in the ancient world, taught something profound. He said that we suffer not from events, but from our judgments about events. The situation is never the problem. Your unexamined relationship to the situation is the problem. This means you already have more power than you think. You simply have not learned to access it yet. Think about this in the context of your own life. Someone criticizes your work. Your instinct is to defend yourself or shut down. But what if, instead of reacting, you paused and asked whether there is anything true in what they said? Not to be passive, not to accept disrespect, but to extract what is useful and discard the rest without losing your composure. That is not weakness. That is a level of mental discipline most people will never reach. Or imagine a situation at work. A colleague undermines you in a meeting. Every signal in your body tells you to retaliate immediately. But the person who pauses, who responds from a place of clarity rather than wounded pride, is always the person who holds the most power in that room. Social pressure works the same way. When the people around you are making choices driven by fear, comparison, or insecurity, the one who can pause and ask, what do I actually believe, here becomes something rare, something others cannot easily manipulate. If this perspective resonates with you, consider subscribing. There is much more to explore here. Seneca wrote in one of his letters that most men ebb and flow in their purpose, sometimes renouncing their ambition and then returning to it again. The reason, he argued, is that they have no fixed point, no inner anchor. They are moved entirely by external winds. Aristotle called the highest human capacity eudaimonia, a Greek word often translated as happiness, but more accurately understood as the full flourishing of your nature. And he argued that this flourishing does not come from pleasure or success. It comes from the disciplined exercise of your highest faculties, your reason, your judgment, your capacity to act in alignment with your values even when it is difficult. Socrates built an entire life around one question: know thyself, not as a decorative phrase, as a rigorous daily practice of self-examination. He believed that the unexamined life was not worth living, not because life without reflection is painful, but because it is not truly lived. It is only experienced passively. The one decision changes your life because it is the decision to stop living passively. Ask yourself this honestly. How many of your daily reactions are truly chosen? How many of the things you believe about yourself were given to you by someone else? How many of your habits exist because you designed them? And how many simply accumulated without your permission? When was the last time something happened and you genuinely paused before you responded? These are not rhetorical questions. They are the questions that reveal the gap between the life you are living and the life you are capable of living. Over time, this practice builds something that cannot be taken from you. It builds what the Stoics called inner citadel, a fortress of self-possession that does not depend on circumstances being favorable. A person who has cultivated this kind of inner discipline does not need external validation to feel secure. They do not collapse when things go wrong. They do not inflate when things go right. They simply remain grounded, clear, purposeful. And this is the compounding advantage that most people never consider. Every time you choose response over reaction, you strengthen a mental architecture that makes the next choice slightly easier. Over months and years, this creates a person who operates at an entirely different level. Not louder, not more aggressive, simply more awake. The world will always move fast. There will always be pressure to react immediately, to have the quick answer, to match the energy of whatever comes at you. But the most powerful people in history were not the fastest to react. They were the most deliberate in their response. They had learned to live in that small space between what happens and what they choose. And in that space, they found something the world cannot give and cannot take away. They found themselves. That is the one decision. Not dramatic, not loud, just a quiet daily commitment to pause, to see clearly, and to act from the deepest part of who you are. Make that decision today, and then again tomorrow. That is where everything begins. Like, share, and subscribe my channel.